This is a story about a princess who ran away from home to escape an arranged marriage, only to come back 2 years later with one main goal: to find the person she truly loves, while hoping she hasn't come back too late. The carriage rolled to a stop in front of the palace gates. For a long moment, Layla didn't move. The iron gates towered above her, black and gold beneath the afternoon sun. Beyond them stood the palace she had once called home. White stone walls rose against the blue sky. Tall windows caught the sunlight. Gardens stretched across the grounds in neat rows of flowers and trimmed hedges. 2 years. She had always known this day would come. The coachman climbed down and opened the door. Warm air brushed against her face. It carried the scent of roses from the gardens and freshly cut grass from somewhere beyond the walls. Layla stepped onto the stone road. The palace looked exactly the same. She wasn't. The servants stationed near the gates straightened immediately. "Your Highness." Layla gave a small nod and walked forward. Her dark coat moved lightly behind her. The sound of her heels echoed against the stone path. She kept her shoulders straight and her expression calm. Elegant, sophisticated, and untouchable. The image people expected. The grand front doors opened before she reached them. Inside, the palace was as extravagant as ever. Crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings. Golden decorations framed paintings of long-dead nobles. The polished marble floor reflected the afternoon light pouring through enormous windows. Beautiful and cold. The same thought crossed her mind that always had. A place could be full of expensive things and still feel empty. A servant hurried ahead to announce her arrival. The words echoed through the entrance hall. "Princess Layla has returned." The sound of hurried footsteps followed almost immediately. When Layla entered the main living room, her parents were already there. Her father stood beside the fireplace, one hand resting on his cane. His face remained composed, but she noticed how tightly he gripped the handle. Her mother didn't bother pretending to stay dignified. The woman practically ran across the room. "Layla." Before Layla could react, her mother wrapped both arms around her. The familiar scent of lavender reached her nose. Layla froze. Not because she disliked it, because she had missed it. Slowly, she returned the hug. Only slightly. It was enough. Her mother's shoulders trembled. "You foolish girl," she whispered. A strange ache settled in Layla's chest. She had left without saying goodbye. Not a letter. Not a warning. When they finally separated, her mother held her shoulders and looked her over as if making sure she was real. "You've lost weight." "I've been fine." "You look tired." "I'm not." Her mother laughed softly through watery eyes. "You still answer questions the same way." The corner of Layla's mouth almost moved. "I'm glad you decided to come back." Her father's voice carried across the room. Layla turned toward him. The distance between them had always been different. Her mother showed affection easily. Her father never had. But she had never doubted he cared. "I won't be staying long," Layla said. The words landed heavily. Her mother's smile faded. "Layla, if this is about the marriage thing, you don't have to worry about it." Layla looked at her. "We won't force you to marry Leo again." Silence settled briefly over the room. Layla's gaze drifted across the expensive decorations surrounding them. Gold, crystal, paintings. The palace had changed nothing. The people inside it had. Or perhaps she had. Her mother followed her gaze. "How about you go to your room and rest?" she said gently. "I'll arrange a servant to take care of you while you're here." Layla nodded. "Thank you." The relief on her mother's face was immediate, as if accepting help counted as progress. Maybe it did. A servant led her toward the upper floors. The familiar hallways stretched before her. Her footsteps echoed against polished floors. Everything felt smaller than she remembered, except the distance she had created between herself and this place. That still felt enormous. Outside, the palace buzzed with activity long before sunset. Servants carried baskets through the gardens. Stable hands moved between the horse barns. Maids crossed the courtyards with folded linens balanced in their arms. And everywhere, people talked. "Did you see her?" "I saw her from the entrance hall. She hasn't changed at all." A young maid lowered her voice. "She's still beautiful." The older servant beside her snorted. "Beautiful, yes. Friendly? Not so much." A few laughed. Near the fountain, another group had gathered around a cart of fresh vegetables. "I thought she'd never come back." "Neither did I." "She looked exactly like a princess should." "That's the problem," someone muttered. The others looked at him. He shrugged. "She always felt like she belonged somewhere higher than the rest of us." An older woman shook her head. "No, she was always polite." "Polite isn't the same as warm." That ended the discussion, because everyone knew it was true. Princess Layla had never been cruel, never arrogant. Yet there had always been a distance around her, like a glass wall nobody could cross. Far above them, standing on a stone balcony overlooking the grounds, Layla watched the palace move beneath her. The evening breeze tugged gently at strands of her dark hair. Voices drifted upward from the gardens. The splash of water from the fountain mixed with birdsong from the trees lining the estate. 2 years ago, she would have stood here wishing she could escape. Now she stood there searching. Her eyes moved slowly across the grounds. The gardens. The stables. The paths winding through flower beds. People came and went. Servants laughed together. Workers carried supplies. Children of palace staff ran across a distant lawn before being scolded away. But she didn't see the person she wanted. A faint disappointment settled in her chest. She had traveled all this way. At least she had expected to see Haley. The realization made her sigh quietly. Maybe Jackie was right. Even before leaving, Jackie had always been too good at noticing things. The breeze strengthened for a moment, cool against her skin, and Layla remained there a little longer, watching and waiting, but still nothing. Eventually, she turned and went back inside. The palace corridors felt quieter now. The smell of polished wood and fresh flowers followed her as she walked toward her room. For the first time since returning, uncertainty crept into her thoughts. Had she come back too late? The thought lingered all the way to her door. Across town, another estate sat on the edge of the mountains. The evening sun painted the distant peaks gold. Inside a spacious study, Leo stood beside a tall window. One hand rested in his pocket as he looked out across the valley below. His reflection stared back at him from the glass. Blonde hair. Sharp features. A face people often trusted too easily. The door opened behind him. His father entered carrying a glass of wine. "I just heard the news," he said. Leo didn't turn around. "Layla is back." "I know." His father raised an eyebrow. "Are you going to see her?" The mountains disappeared behind a drifting cloud. "Or are you still angry at her?" That finally earned a reaction. Leo turned fully toward him. The amusement in his eyes caught his father off guard. "Father," he said, "I was never mad at her." His father frowned. "You weren't." Leo walked across the room toward the door. "I would have been stupid to think she would go through with that wedding." The handle clicked softly beneath his hand. "I still have work to do." Then he left. The study door closed behind him. His father remained standing there, confused. What he hadn't seen was the smile that appeared the moment Leo stepped into the hallway. It wasn't bitterness. It wasn't resentment. It was something far more interesting. Leo had always enjoyed watching complicated people create complicated problems for themselves. And Princess Layla had just returned to the palace, which meant things were about to become very entertaining. By the time Layla returned to her room, evening had settled over the palace. The last orange streaks of sunlight slipped through the tall windows, painting the floor in fading bands of gold. Her bedroom looked exactly as she remembered. The same carved bookshelves. The same fireplace. The same large bed draped in cream-colored fabric. Someone had even kept the fresh flowers she used to like on the small table beside the window. Their scent lingered faintly in the air. Layla crossed the room and stopped near her desk. A framed photograph rested inside one of the drawers. For a moment, she simply looked at it. Then she picked it up. The corners had softened from years of handling. The photograph showed two young women standing in the palace gardens. One stood perfectly straight, trying and failing to look uninterested. The other was laughing. Haley. Layla's thumb brushed lightly against the edge of the frame. The expression on her face softened. Nobody saw this version of her. Nobody except maybe Jackie. Certainly not Haley. A knock sounded at the door. Layla's expression immediately settled back into place. Calm and controlled. Come in. The door opened. Before she even looked up, a familiar scent reached her. Something floral she couldn't quite identify. Layla froze. Her fingers tightened around the photograph. For a second, she thought she might be imagining it. Then a voice drifted across the room. Hello, my queen. Gentle.
Warm.
Cool as a summer breeze. Layla quickly slipped the photograph back into the drawer. Her heart was beating harder than it had any right to. When she finally looked up, she found herself staring at Haley. 2 years had changed her, and somehow hadn't. Her brown hair was a little longer now, gathered loosely behind her head. A few strands had escaped and framed her face. Her eyes remained as bright as Layla remembered, and she was still smiling. Not the polite smile servants gave nobles. A real one. Haley carried a tray with a teapot and 2 cups. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Haley stepped forward. I am Haley. I don't know if you remember me. Your mother asked me to take care of you while you're here. Layla stared at her. She didn't smile often. Most people never saw it. But now a small smile appeared before she could stop it. You are the only one who calls me queen. You know that. The smile on Haley's face widened. The room suddenly felt warmer. Much warmer. I remember you. The words came out softer than Layla intended. Haley looked relieved.
Why?
The thought barely formed before Layla pushed it aside. She accepted the cup Haley offered. The porcelain was warm against her fingers. Steam curled upward, carrying the scent of jasmine tea. I am glad you came back, Haley said. Layla lifted the cup to her lips. The tea was sweet. Comfortingly familiar. People around here miss you. Layla glanced at her over the rim of the cup. Are you one of those people who missed me? She meant it as teasing. At least mostly. Haley blinked. Then looked away. A tiny victory settled somewhere inside Layla. Not because Haley looked flustered. Because she still could. I didn't see you earlier when I came. Haley focused on arranging the teapot. I was helping my mother with some things. How is she doing? The answer came immediately. She's fine. A pause followed. Then Haley added quietly, but in a few months she'll stop working here. Layla lowered her cup. Really? Haley nodded. She's planning to move. That caught Layla off guard. Haley's mother had worked at the palace for years. The idea of her leaving felt strange. The idea of Haley leaving with her felt stranger. The room became quiet. Outside, wind brushed against the windows. Somewhere down the hallway, servants passed by, their voices faint through the walls. Layla watched Haley pour more tea. Watched the way she avoided looking directly at her. Then she remembered the question that had never been answered. You didn't answer my question earlier. Haley's hands paused briefly. Layla leaned back in her chair. Did you miss me? For a moment, Haley simply stood there. The silence stretched. Layla suddenly found herself wanting the answer more than she should. Then Haley smiled. A smaller smile this time.
Softer.
You are hard not to miss. The words landed somewhere deep inside Layla before she could stop them. Haley set the teapot down. It's getting late. There was something careful in her voice now. Guarded. You should go to sleep. Before Layla could think of a response, Haley picked up the empty tray. I'll see you tomorrow, Your Highness. The title returned. The distance returned with it. Layla watched her walk toward the door. The handle turned, and just like that, she was gone. Silence filled the room again. The scent of tea lingered. So did the warmth Haley had brought with her. After a long moment, Layla opened the drawer and looked at the photograph again. This time she couldn't stop herself from smiling. Haley had missed her.
It was a small thing.
It shouldn't have mattered. Yet it was the happiest she had felt since coming home. The following morning arrived bright and clear. Sunlight spilled across the palace grounds, turning the dew on the grass into scattered points of light. Layla sat alone beside the pool in the eastern garden. The water rippled gently whenever the breeze passed over it. Flowering trees lined the stone pathways surrounding the pool, and somewhere nearby she could hear gardeners trimming hedges. A book rested open on her lap. She hadn't turned a page in nearly 10 minutes. Her thoughts kept drifting elsewhere. A shadow appeared across the table. Layla. She looked up. Leo stood there with his hands in his pockets. He looked almost exactly as she remembered.
Tall.
Well-dressed. The sort of person who always seemed relaxed no matter the situation. Lucky me, Layla said.
Leo laughed.
That's a terrible greeting. It wasn't a greeting. Fair enough. He pulled out the chair opposite her and sat down. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The wind stirred the leaves overhead. A few petals drifted onto the surface of the pool. 2 years ago, she had run away partly because of the wedding everyone wanted. Strangely, sitting across from Leo now felt less awkward than she expected. Neither of them had wanted that marriage. Both of them had simply been trapped inside it. You look well, Leo said. So do you. You disappeared. You noticed? I had to spend 6 months explaining your disappearance to half the kingdom. That earned a small smile from Layla. Leo leaned back in his chair. Was it worth it? The question lingered. Layla looked out across the water. The answer should have been simple. 2 years of freedom. 2 years of building a life away from expectations. 2 years of learning who she was when nobody expected her to be a princess. And yet, she thought about her mother hugging her, about her father's relief, about Haley. Most of it, she finally said. Leo nodded as though he understood. Maybe he did.
They spoke for a while after that.
About mutual acquaintances, about business ventures, about places Layla had visited. The conversation flowed easily. It felt strangely comfortable, until Leo casually dropped a stone into the middle of the pond. I'm getting married. Layla blinked. Congratulations. Thank you. The smile on his face made her suspicious immediately. Who's the unfortunate woman? Leo placed a hand dramatically over his chest. I'm hurt. You'll get over it, said Layla. His smile returned. Layla narrowed her eyes. Something was coming. She could feel it. So, she asked, who is she? The breeze picked up. Water lapped softly against the edge of the pool. Leo looked entirely too pleased with himself. I'm planning to marry Haley. The world seemed to pause. Just briefly. A gardener laughed somewhere in the distance. A bird landed near the fountain. Everything carried on normally. Except something unpleasant had settled heavily in Layla's chest.